Okay, we mentioned Runkeeper fitness trackers. Our next speaker knows an awful lot about those. We have Finn Myrstad from the Norwegian Consumer Council, and he's bringing many toys with him today and telling us about their new project, because he's had so much success in getting Tinder to change the terms and conditions, Runkeeper, and all the rest of it. So take it away, Cayla.
Thank you. Oh, hi. You can clearly hear me. It's very nice to be here in Stockholm. Coming from Norway, we are always happy to be here, like Kari said. And we're going to actually, if we have time today, we're actually going to do a small live hacking on stage with Cayla, this talking doll that is connected to the internet. What could go wrong? You will find out. And we even have a prize for the winner of the hacking prize, some Norwegian chocolates. So with hearts on them, so we can build this bridge between Norway and Sweden. So I'll put that here. So that's a little bit of a teaser. I have a very strict schedule, and I forgot my clicker. I got it here. And what I'm going to talk to you about is some experiences that we have. Norwegian Consumer Council is a public interest group. We do lots of different things, but my role is a consumer advocate. So Mark was telling us a bit about we've done some work together, because what we do, which is maybe different from many other organizations in Europe, which are member-based, they produce membership magazines, etc. We do now lots of in-depth research. So every year we publish research, we read the terms of service, and we try to understand them. And so what I'm going to share with you today are 10 points, which easily could have been 15 points. And also, I think, based on the discussion today, I would add a few points to what I'm presenting. I'll tell you at the end. But 10 points, which are based on our experience, basically enforcing consumer and data protection law in Norway. But that's all the legal basis is from European law. And we do more and more enforcement actions in Europe and in the US together with organizations such as EPIC. We filed a complaint in Norway last week. And at the same time, last week, Mark and his colleagues and together with 6 other consumer organizations in the US filed a complaint on the same issue, on the same report that we published. So this is a little bit how we work. So I'm going to rush through this, hopefully not too fast, but enough for that you get the point. I don't see this there. There it is. Okay. So our sort of guiding principles are actually based on this man, JFK, when he got the Consumer Bill of Rights through in 1962. And he defined a few consumer principles, which were the right to safety, to safe products, which I think today in digital products is as important as ever, and I'll get back to that with Cayla. It's the right to be informed, to understand what sort of products or services you're buying, whether it's what's in your food or what's in your app. It's the right to choice, which obviously is related to many important data protection principles, such as data portability is a prerequisite for choice. And also we're having data monopolies, that also prevents choice. So I think these principles are as relevant today as they were when they were presented in 1962, and of course the right to be heard. Since then they've added lots of other principles. But these are guiding principles even in this digital world, which feels much newer. And the reason why we're also working on this is this picture. Some of you might know. This is the digital media marketing landscape. These are all the companies handling all of our data at any given day. And it says itself that from a consumer's point of view, it's impossible to understand this intricate system. You might understand it because you're working on this field, but the consumers don't. So we can't expect them to navigate this landscape. This is also why we're working on this complex ecosystem. So I'm going to present 10 rules or 10 points for industry to follow to make really good services. And how many people here have ever downloaded an app, and when the pop-up comes, if it comes, says, do you agree to these terms and conditions? And then you click yes without reading them. Be honest. Okay, yeah, me too. I saw some people here who didn't raise their hand. Does that mean you actually read them every time? Oh, okay, that's impressive. Okay, so we looked at this. This is the first thing we do, right? So we're going through the consumer journey of an app, or when you use a service. The first thing you do, of course, is download the app, and then you get the terms. So you buy the product, even worse, in the store, you don't see the app, you don't see the terms. You only see the terms once you download the app that goes with the product. And then, of course, you unbox the whole thing, and you've broken the seal, and hard to return it, right? So we did a stunt last year to show how absurd this has become. And you probably read these studies where it says it will take you 33 days to read all the terms of service that you meet online every year. We just did the terms of service on an app, on a phone. We calculated about 30 apps are in use at any given time. That's a conservative measure. And we actually printed then the terms of service for all the apps that we picked out. And we decided, let's just read this stuff. And this is what happened. We streamed the experiment online. And actually, we had 50,000 viewers. And we don't have a TV channel. We thought that was kind of cool. It was like slow TV gone mad. And we just started reading. And we had lots of people coming, IT people, politicians, etc. And we read, and we read, and we read, and we read, and we read. And obviously, the battery of our phones would have run out if this had been reading on a phone, right? And this just loops and loops. But it took us 32 hours to read the terms of service of an average phone. And I'm not even talking about the operating system, updates, all these things. These are just the apps. So it goes without saying that even if you're as good as you are at reading all the terms, most people won't read this just because of this. And then I come to my second point. So if you do read them, are you then safe? Because what we've seen is lots of companies, sadly, put in clauses like this. You agree to follow and be bound by the terms which may be updated by Strava from time to time without notice to you. Isn't that great? So even if you read the terms and you actually understand it, they can be changed without you knowing it. And Strava is a fitness service. It collects your heartbeat, right? Your location data. This is all very sensitive stuff. It's not cool to see that they have terms like this. Obviously, we filed a complaint then to our lovely DPA, who is doing lots of good work in Norway. Hope Strava has changed these terms, I hope. We haven't checked lately. But this is really, of course, we think a breach of consumer law is an unfair contract term. But it also has privacy implications, of course, because this is sensitive data. So this is, of course, not cool. So we've looked into lots of different services. And I'm going to tell you a story now with what happened to me when I was trying to check out some of these apps. And so the two first rules we have are help me understand the rules and don't change the rules behind my back. So those are like two things that all services should remember. So short language, all the understandable language, and don't change the rules behind my back. And then this happened to me. So in our research last year in a project called AppFail, we looked at 20 popular apps. And two of them actually, were dating apps. Tinder, very popular app, global app. And I had to download Tinder. And that was fine, except that I just married. So I had to go home to my wife and tell her, hi, I'm doing some research at work, which is really important. Are you okay? I'm just going to download the two most popular dating apps in Norway. Right. And she said okay, and I downloaded it. And this is what happened. And this brings me to the three next points. Because when I downloaded the app, the Tinder app, this happened. You see, this is a screenshot of my Facebook profile, so I'm on Facebook. Even if I do have privacy as one of my key issues, I'm of course on Facebook. And the default setting of Tinder was to import 2,000 of my private pictures from Facebook without me even knowing it. And that's, of course, completely in breach of the principle of privacy by default, of course. So don't take too much. And of course, it is a second point is also don't snoop that we talk about. Don't ask for too much, and have default settings that are respectful. And the third thing that Tinder did wrong, they did three things wrong in particular, is that they had this quote. And I'm going to read it for you because it's long and complicated. But they wrote in their terms of service, by posting content as a part of the service, you automatically grant to the company, its affiliates, licensees, successors, an irrevocable, that means you can't call back the license, perpetual, that's forever, so it's you can't call it back and it lasts forever, Non-exclusive, transferable, sub-licensable, fully paid off, worldwide right to license, use, copy, store, perform, display, reproduce, record, play, adapt, modify, and distribute the content, prepare derivative works of the content, or incorporate the content into other works, and grant and author sub-licenses of the foregoing in any media now known or hereafter created. 2,000 of my pictures and all my chat if I had been using Tinder. So clearly, this is an unfair contract term. It's in breach of the Unfair Contract Term Directive of the EU. But that's a huge privacy implication, of course, as well. So this could have been a privacy complaint, or it could have been a consumer marketing law complaint. In this case, we filed a complaint to the Consumer Ombudsman, which is also a very proactive authority in Norway. And they actually went into negotiations with Tinder because this created a lot of bad press globally for them. And Tinder now changed these terms. The terms are far from perfect, but at least it took out this. So that shows that there is some possibilities for consumer advocates to enforce these things. But obviously, it shouldn't be necessary for us to run after all these services. We checked 20 apps, and there are 1 million apps out there. So that was, to conclude, the learning we got from the Tinder experiment was the following. So give me real choices, don't snoop, and don't take liberties with my stuff. By the way, this is all, we've written it this way just because we want consumers to understand what their rights are. So this is still work in progress. And we have it also on our website with much more explanation. And this is all mandated, of course, in law as well. And then, of course, we had to, when we look at these things, we see all these horrible terms. So let's say the consumers have read the terms and they understand them. And sometimes you even have very good terms. Like the other dating app that I had to download, Happen, which is a location-based dating app, which is from France. So it's a European app. So we thought, hey, maybe it's different. And they had really good terms. You're like, yes. Because Happen wrote in their privacy policy, Happen commits to never share your details with any other member or with any third party. Your email address and your real identity are strictly confidential and will be never disclosed by Happen. We thought, yes. Sadly, that was not right. Because what we do as well in our research, we hire IT experts to look at what goes on under the hood. Because they can have perfect terms, but a consumer cannot look under the hood. So we have people to help us with that. So we worked with a research institution in this particular case. And this is the data flow analysis of Happen. You see the data for our dating app flowing out of Oslo. And it goes to Paris, where the headquarters are, but it also goes to lots of other countries, including a marketing company in San Francisco with personal data. That was not cool when they had those terms. Our French counterpart, sister organization, filed a complaint with the French Data Protection Authority, and Tinder has since changed their terms to include that they describe this data flow instead of necessarily doing something with it. But there's nothing wrong with this data flow, of course, if you disclose it and if it's clear for the consumer what happens. I mean, analytics is fine, cloud storage is fine. It just needs to be disclosed in a proper way. So I need to speed up. So I will speed up a little bit because we want to talk to Cayla, right? So our 6th point is don't overshare. And that gets me to some stories that we are going to get more and more relevant going forward with GDPR. And that's the issue of portability. So we looked at fitness trackers last year. And these Fitbits and Garmin, Mio and Jawbone, very popular training devices. And we actually had to file a complaint on them as well, sadly, because their privacy policy was not okay. It didn't define health data as personal data, for example, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that was interesting that we thought was a good thing when we started was that you could download your health data, your running data. You know, that's a good thing. But what we realized is you can't upload it anywhere. So what is it worth if you use a service for 2 to 3 years and suddenly a new, better service comes around and you want to change? All your records, all your run times, everything is lost because you can't upload it. So I think this is something that I think is important for competition. It should be something that industry is pushing for, standards around portability. I know it's complicated, but we need a discussion on what is a feasible way of doing portability. I tried to move my cloud storage stuff. I'm Dropbox, and I know as a privacy advocate, I should probably be on Spider Oak or something more seen as privacy, but it's very user-friendly, right? So I've taken that trade-off. But I tried to move it to another cloud provider last week, and it's not possible to move even your simple documents from one cloud service to another without downloading it to your computer and doing that whole process back up again. So I think the portability issue will be key to going forward. So I will just draw your attention to something we published last week, because Mark mentioned it. And last week we published this report, because that brings me to the last points of my presentation. We looked at smartwatches for children, and basically we looked then at terms, and we look at security, and lots of other things. And sadly, we found really damaging results, because these are products that are supposed to make children safe. They have a GPS, and parents give them to their kids because they want to. Some people want to track their kids, but also parents want to maybe be able to call their kids, which is, of course, completely fine if they want to do that. So we wanted to see, but what are the implications of having a product like this? And sadly, we found that we could hack all of these watches. We used a security company called Mnemonic, who hacked these watches without any problems. And they could access personal data of the kids, their location history. They could even spoof the location and say the kid was somewhere else. And they could override it and talk to the kids if they wanted to, and lots of other things. And this goes to show that we really need better security standards in Europe, I think, because security is not always about privacy. And this is something that I would love to discuss with the industry, and I'd love to demonstrate it now with Cayla. So I'm just going to skip this film and go straight to Cayla. So I mentioned Cayla for you, and we're going to do a small experiment now. We looked at Cayla last year, and we discovered this is a doll that kids are given for Christmas. This was voted the Christmas present of the year in Norway a few years ago. And the idea is that kids can connect to this doll, connect it to the internet, and then talk to her. She has a lot of pre-programmed, the doll has a lot of pre-programmed speech, and if it doesn't find the answer, it goes to Wikipedia. Yes. And we discovered lots of horrible things with this, sadly. And I thought I'd show you the worst part of it, because the company went out and said, actually, even before we discovered the security vulnerability, another hacker in the UK had discovered this, and it had been on BBC, and the company said, you had to be an expert team of hackers to access this device. So we're going to see if you are an expert team of hackers, because we're going to hack Cayla now. So if you want to join this experiment, I would ask you to take up your phones. And remember, there's a prize. There's a prize, okay? Chocolates with a heart and a Norwegian flag. No, I don't mean to deter you. I hope you join, okay? So turn on your phones and turn on your Bluetooth. Turn it off again afterwards. But turn on your Bluetooth, and I'm going to turn Cayla on. And we're basically going to see who can connect to Cayla first. And this is a Bluetooth that works around this area, if the battery works. So I'm going to turn her on. Is your Bluetooth on? Okay, let's see. And her name is not very difficult. It's Cayla Party Time. So when she pops up in your screen, try to connect. Okay, she is on. You'll see if it works. And let's see. So does it say connect on your phone, or connected? Let's see. Okay, try again. Here, is there anyone? Oh, are you connected? Okay, give him an applause. This is great. He has connected to Cayla. Okay, so can I try an experiment with you? Do you have a music app on your phone, as Spotify or YouTube? Can you just go on and put on a random song and turn up the volume on your phone? We'll see if this works. It's always interesting. The battery is sometimes not good. That's a good thing in this case, but let's see if we can connect your phone. We put on some music. It's coming from your phone. Okay, it didn't work this time, but normally what would happen is that Cayla would then be connected with your phone, and you could play off music. And this is what we discovered. So anyone in proximity to this doll could basically connect to it. and you can initiate, you can play things through it, and you can also talk through the doll. So this was, of course, a huge security risk. So having this in your neighborhood, basically anyone who would be within range of these Bluetooth devices could connect. A huge problem for child's safety. So what we've discovered over the 2 years we've been working on this is that we have no security standards for IoT devices, and this is a huge problem. In the olden days, you didn't have, for example, car safety regulation. You didn't need a car belt, but then you got a car belt, and now you can't sell a car where there's no belt and there are no functioning brakes. These things are tested before it goes to market. We don't have that for digital devices, and this is what we need for, I think, digital services as well, because this is the only way we can create trust. And we are looking into whether the product safety regulation, for example, of the EU could be a place to put such a horizontal piece of legislation. So what happened to Cayla? And I will finish with this little video, because we did some work together with Mark, and his organization drafted a massive complaint in the US, which received a lot of attention. We drafted complaints in Norway, and we got 10 other countries in Europe to join us on the day of publication before Christmas last year. And this is what happened to
Toys they
Cayla.
claim put children's privacy at risk. One of those toys is interactive doll My Friend Cayla.
Cayla. Cayla.
Cayla, Cayla, Cayla.
Cayla. Cayla. Cayla. Cayla. Cayla doll.
Spies. They're everywhere. NSA, CIA, and now MFC. My Friend Cayla.
With security gaps allowing it to be potentially hacked, turning it into a monitoring device.
What the doll should say is, I'm recording everything your child says and transmitting it via smartphone back to my parent company.
Private conversations between your child and the doll are recorded and then used without limitation.
Poses a threat to your child's security.
Parents that have bought this doll should destroy it. Be very quiet though.
Really invasive surveillance. And that's just creepy.
That is absolutely the setup for a sci-fi movie about a dystopian future. And how did we get there? My Friend Cayla.
The smart toy banned in Germany.
Germany has banned the doll.
Cayla.
Okay, thank you so much.